Good morning, YouTube. I have some more CNC updates for you.
So are you recording all of the nefarious activities?
If you're new to the channel, my name is Dan, this is my garage, and this channel is all about the supercar ownership experience. And I know some of you have been really interested in this whole CNC saga, so I have some updates for you. You may have already heard about a few of them, but before we do that, I need to pay a couple bills, and the way I pay my bills is through my website, normalguysupercar.com. So any of you that are wanting to support me, you can do so by buying any of my products and services. Go visit normalguysupercar.com, use the code NGS10. It takes off 10% almost everything in the store. I genuinely do appreciate when you guys do that because, like I said, that is my job. That's how I keep this channel running. But here we go. Some more CNC saga updates. Hi, Mo. You ready for the drama? You ready for the drama, huh? Yeah? You ready? Okay. Yeah, let's do some drama. So let's start it off with something fairly basic. If you go to CNC Motors website, it's been down for quite a few days now. So I have no idea why it's down, but it is, and it has been for quite a few days. Who knows? But here's the more interesting updates. We have two major things I want to talk about. Two stories from two different sides of how it's playing out for individuals who are involved. And the other thing we want to do is talk about how a lot of the people who are still owed are really in a bad spot. So we want to talk about that, and I want to kind of explain to it as well as I can based on what I know. So let's talk about Shane for a second. So you guys remember Shane? He's the one who first reached out to me.
So thank you, Dan, for this opportunity to be on your platform and have this space to share my story.
And kind of told me the whole story and got me involved with the situation. So if you didn't know already, Shane did get his Ferrari F430 back, and his situation is probably about the best outcome that you can have for the scenario. Now, Shane did have to spend a ridiculous amount of time and energy working the situation to try and get his car back, and ultimately he was able to do so. He was also able to make sure that the other person, the person who bought the car, didn't get screwed either, because that's the problem. You have a situation where one person has possession of the car, another person has possession of the title. There might be bank loans by both people, and in this case there was. So you had one car, you had two bank notes, and then it even got more complicated because the other person, the buyer of his car, had traded in a car as well. So then there was more people who were involved. So actually this one situation involved three people, three bank notes, two cars, and just, it just gets so complicated. So I know a lot of people wanted updates from Shane. Well, guess what? He has published a video on his YouTube channel.
After that second video, somebody who recognized the car passed Dan some information, which got to me, and ultimately I took that information and gave it to a family friend of ours, and he was able to get me the name and address, multiple addresses of the gentleman who had my car.
There is a little thing up here, or you can go in the description below. There's a link to it. So click on that. I really recommend you go watch his story because he's gonna tell the whole thing in detail. I don't wanna tell the whole thing here because, well, he's got a channel and he's telling the whole thing on his channel. So go watch it there. It's very, very fascinating. Lots of interesting information. That is kind of the best case scenario. Mo is trying to live his best life. Here you go. This is the ideal life for a Basset Hound. Oh, sorry, I woke you up. Okay, but what about other people? So as you know, there are still a lot of people who are either owed money or cars or titles. That's where things get ugly because, well, I don't know what's going on, but all I know is there's still a lot of people who are owed. So I was actually having a phone call with one of these people last night and discussing their situation. They kind of ran through the whole story of what's going on with them, and I'm gonna kind of keep it a little bit generic, so we're not gonna talk specifics because they've asked me not to. A lot of people in the comments are like, just go get a lawyer, or just call the police, or just file it on your insurance. And it's not that simple. It's really far from simple. So let's run through a few of those things. Let's say you call the police. Well, guess what? It's a civil matter. You have a contract that was violated, so the police probably aren't gonna do anything. Well, then you say, okay, well, if the police aren't gonna do anything, why don't you call the FBI? Most of these people have. Who knows if the FBI is doing anything? They won't acknowledge or deny anything. We just don't know. So maybe they're investigating, maybe they're not. I don't know. I don't know how you get to light a fire under the FBI's butt to make them do something. Okay, so people say call the district attorney. Well, people have. Again, They've called the district attorney, they've written letters, all that sort of stuff. Some have even gotten responses that basically say, we're aware of the situation. Well, you file your report with the DMV. We know the DMV is actually doing an investigation. So, well, I guess that's good. All right, so you're making some progress. You got someone who's paying attention to the situation. But guess what? No one is gonna just go get your car for you. Like, you can't report your car as stolen in most of these cases because it's not. Technically, it's not a stolen car. It's really weird. So you gave your car to CNC Motors to be consigned. So you have a contract that says they are going to consign the car, but you gave it to them. You handed over your keys. It's the same thing with when you rent your car out or when you valet your car. When you hand over the keys, it is not theft if they keep your car. It is called a conversion. It is a contract violation. It's a breaking of promise. It is not theft. It's not the same thing as though someone came into my garage and literally stole the car out of the garage without me knowing. It's the difference of me saying, hey, so-and-so, you can take my car and do something with it. I gave them permission. If they never return the car, it is not theft, it is conversion. It's really weird. There's all sorts of weird laws about that. You gotta look into it. Lawyers have talked about this stuff on various YouTube channels. Leto's Law or whatever, he did some talking about this. Actually, it's a very good video. I recommend you go watch that one. He talks about the whole scenario. In fact, he talks about how he thinks ultimately what's going to probably happen is there's going to be some sort of tax evasion situation. Now, that's his opinion. I think he could be onto something there because we don't know what was going on in the background. All the finances related to these transactions may cause some problems. So here's another problem. You go call your insurance and say, guess what? My car was stolen. And they go, no, it wasn't. You gave over your keys. Again, they won't file a claim. They won't consider the car stolen. So you're not going to get anything from your insurance in most of these scenarios. It has to depend on your specific insurance. But so far, many of the people that are in contact with me have told me their insurance has flat out said, sorry, we aren't paying anything. All right, so the next common thing people say is, go hire a lawyer. Well, that's fine. I know a lot of the people involved have. Many of them have even filed suit. Here's where it gets complicated. Lawyers are extremely expensive. So let's say that they owe you $100,000 because you sold a $100,000 car. From most of the people I've talked to, they think that a lawyer is going to cost somewhere between $20,000 and $40,000 to figure this out, because the problem is it's very complicated, and once they start having to try and find the money, it gets really expensive because it's not as simple as just saying, I was owed $100,000, give it to me. Where's that money going to come from? If someone doesn't have any money, or if they're hiding the money, you don't know where that money's going to come from. It's not going to be an easy case. And here's the worst part. Let's say you do win it. You win all the money and the courts agree and they say, you are owed $100,000. Cool. And the person goes, well, I don't have any money. What are they gonna do? Where are they gonna get the money? It doesn't just manifest out of thin air. There has to be money, there has to be property, there has to be assets that you could take possession of in order to get paid back. And unfortunately, we don't know that that's necessarily true in this case. We don't know where the assets are. If there are any assets, we don't know where the money is. So all those things make it so that going to a lawyer isn't necessarily strategically a good move, nor is it gonna result in any sort of things for you. Yep, very content. Okay, so that leaves kind of two more things that you might consider. One of them is that dealerships in California have to have a surety bond. Well, that surety bond is only $50,000, or I think that's the minimum they have to have, so no one's gonna have more than that. Well, as far as we know, that bond is already depleted, or basically, it's not depleted, but it's already got claims against it, and here's the problem. That's $50,000 total. There's 55 people on my list, might even be more than that. Let's just say that there's 20 people that are owed money and file against this bond. And let's say on average the car is $20,000. 20 people and it's $50,000. So each person might get maybe 2,000 bucks, maybe. And here's what's really crazy. We were looking into it. You actually have to pay in to get part of that bond. You have to like buy into something. And it's not cheap. It was a couple $100. So you might spend, let's just say it's 300 bucks, spend 300 bucks to get 1,000 bucks. So you net out 700 bucks. And that's assuming that there was only 50 people, which it could be more than that. So effectively that bond thing is just almost worthless, almost worth none of your time or energy because you probably aren't going to get anything. So finally, there's one last option because it's in California. There is some California program that offers people help when dealerships fail, whether it's through fraud or through bankruptcy or whatever. From what we understand, there's a website you can go to, file your information. I'm gonna put it down here. There's a link for it. It's also in the description. This actually may result in some people being okay. So how it works is you make your claim and then basically they're willing to pay out up to $35,000 per incident. Now I don't know if that's per person or per car. I also don't know if it's per buyer and per seller. But if it is true, let's say in a situation, again, you have a $100,000 car, you're owed $100,000, the other person bought the car and they're out of title, well, they might pay out $35,000 to each of you, in which case that means now you're only owed $65,000. So you're doing a little better. So that might actually be a reasonable thing to pursue. Now, if you're owed less than $35,000, let's say you're only owed $20,000, well, you might be made whole and you might be all set. So that particular thing might be your salvation. That might be, honestly, your best bet. So again, link in the description below and link right here. I think a lot of you probably need to pursue that if you're in the situation. In fact, pretty much all of you should if you're in this situation. So that's exactly the situation that the person I talked to over the phone last night is in, because here is the crazy part. In California, if you have a car that you put on consignment, and let's say the dealership fraudulently sells that car to someone else, the buyer was in good faith purchasing the car, they did not know that it was fraudulent, nothing about that, they're just an unknowing victim. In California, basically the law suggests that the person who's going to get the car is the buyer, not the seller, even though the seller may still have possession of the title. So ultimately, this is what happened to the person I was talking to last night. They were in a situation where they literally found the car, they even talked to the buyer. Thankfully, the buyer was a really reasonable person. The two of them discussed the situation, and basically it was concluded that if they pursue this further, they're both gonna have to file suit against each other to try and win this car over, which is crazy to me. Like, it's just like, holy cow. Basically, the seller figured out that the laws are not in their favor. They kind of consulted with some lawyers. They determined that hiring a bunch of lawyers to resolve the situation is gonna make it so that both people lose a bunch of money. The lawyers are gonna win, the lawyers are gonna make a bunch of money. And so they kind of concluded that their best option was actually to just let it go. Because financially, they were going to be basically at a net loss to pursue it rather than just taking $35,000 out of that situation. It's absolutely crazy to me to think that these people sold their car in good faith and now end up with no car and only $35,000. And it's not a small car. This was a very substantial, expensive car into six figures. That's why this whole thing is so unbelievably frustrating and so disheartening, because a lot of these people are going to face these decisions. They're going to be put into this scenario where they have possibilities of ending up with zero, or in some cases, if they, let's say they hired a lawyer, let's say that these people hired a lawyer, went to court to try and win their car back, and then they lost. So now they're not only without the car, they now paid these lawyers, and the lawyer fees could exceed that $35,000 that they get from this fund. And that's assuming they even get the money from that fund. So now you're out more than just your cars. Let's say the car is, again, $100,000. You're not just out $100,000. You might be out $140,000 because you spent $40,000 hiring lawyers to try and sue to get your car back. Unbelievable, like so frustrating. The whole situation is just so infuriating, and it just, I feel so bad for everyone involved. Mo, I see you moved from there to there. That was probably a lot of effort. I'm sure you're exhausted. You should probably take a nap. Yeah, definitely take a nap. I hope you guys enjoy this update. We're hoping for the best for these people. I don't know how it's gonna work out, but it's not looking good. It's really not, and I'm not trying to be a pessimist. I don't see a whole lot of options. Again, if you'd like to support me, you can do so in a few ways. One is visiting my website, normalguysupercar.com, buying products or services from me. Another thing you can do is just simply subscribe. You can go down there, there's a little button, click subscribe. That does help me out. Also hit that thumbs up. Again, that pushes the video out to more people. So I appreciate tremendously to all of you that have supported me over these past few weeks, and actually it's been over a month now, trying to get the story out. It's been very stressful, and it's still not over. So, well, we'll be doing lots more car stuff, so you're gonna wanna stay tuned. gonna be sweet. That is the proper basset position. Momo, you wanna go inside? Huh? Wanna go inside? Let's go inside. Okay, yeah, let's go inside. Good boy.